You could have single-digit body fat and still not see your abs. Sounds impossible, right? But it happens to people constantly. They get shredded. They can see every vein in their forearms, and their stomach still looks flat instead of defined. Meanwhile, you'll see someone at a slightly higher body fat percentage whose abs look carved out of stone. That's not luck. That's not just genetics either, although genetics play a small role. It comes down to one thing almost nobody trains correctly: the actual size of the ab muscle underneath the fat. And here's the part that's going to save you a lot of wasted gym time. Out of the hundreds of AB exercises floating around the internet, there are really only 2 that do the heavy lifting for building that muscle. Everything else is either a waste of your energy or, worse, actively training the wrong muscle entirely. We're diving into something that's going to seriously level up how you think about your health. But before we jump in, if you're new here, smash that subscribe button and join the Human Circuitry TV fam. We drop real health content every week to help you look better, feel better, and live better. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. All right, let's go. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which 2 and exactly how to do them, so they actually work. Section number 1, the fat loss. Myth. Let's kill the biggest myth first. Abs are made in the kitchen. You've heard it 1,000 times, and it's not wrong, it's just incomplete. Losing fat reveals your abs. It doesn't build them. Think of it like sanding down drywall to reveal a light switch. Sanding doesn't make the switch bigger. If the muscle underneath is small and underdeveloped, getting lean just gives you a flatter stomach, not a defined one. The visible six-pack, the deep separation between each block, only shows up when the muscle itself has some size to it. So the real question isn't, how do I get leaner? It's, how do I actually grow my abs like a muscle? And that's where almost everyone gets it wrong. Section number 2. Why most ab exercises don't work. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Planks, holds, most core stability work. They're fantastic for injury prevention and posture. They will not add size to your abs. Why? Because their entire job is to resist movement, not create it. Your abs are built to do one specific job: pull your rib cage and your hips toward each other by curling your spine. A muscle only grows when it's asked to do its actual job under load, through a real range of motion. A plank never asks your abs to do that job. It just asks them to sit there and hold a position. That's like expecting your biceps to grow from carrying grocery bags. Technically, the muscle is working. It's just not working the way it needs to in order to grow. And this is where the second big mistake comes in, one that's quietly ruined ab day for probably 90% of people watching this. Keeping your back flat during AB exercises, if you've ever done a leg raise or a sit-up and felt it mostly in your hips, instead of your stomach, this is exactly why. When your lower back stays glued flat to the floor or the bench, and you just swing a body part up and down like a lever, your hip flexors take over almost entirely. Your abs get dragged along for the ride, but they're barely doing the work. You could do 1,000 reps like that and still see almost nothing change. The fix is counterintuitive if you've been told your whole life to keep a neutral spine during core work. For these 2 exercises specifically, you actually want your spine to round. You're curling your ribcage and pelvis toward each other, not hinging like a door. Section number 3, the science bit, credibility layer. Newer training research has found something interesting about muscle growth in general. A muscle tends to grow the most in the region that's placed under the deepest stretch. Your hamstrings, for example, grow differently depending on whether you train them with a movement that stretches them at the bottom versus one that mostly works them in the middle. Your abs follow the same rule. Most ab exercises barely stretch the muscle at all. They start in a neutral position and just contract from there. If you want real growth, you need an exercise that loads your abs at their longest, most stretched point. Then ask them to fully contract from there. That single detail is the difference between an exercise that feels like work and one that actually reshapes your midsection over a few months. So with all that in mind, here are your 2 exercises. Section number 4. Exercise number 1. Lower abs for the lower abs. You want a movement where your hips lift up toward your rib cage, not your legs swinging up and down. That's a weighted hip curl, sometimes called a reverse crunch done correctly. Beginner version. Lie on a bench or the floor, knees bent in toward your chest. Instead of thinking, lift my legs, think, Curl my tailbone off the surface. Small movement, controlled, no swinging. If you're only lifting an inch or two but you feel it in your lower abs instead of your hip crease, you're doing it right. Progression. Once that gets easy, straighten your legs out more so there's more weight to lift, and go slower on the way down. That's where most of the growth actually happens. Advanced version. Lie on a bench with your head near the edge and let your hips hang slightly off. Or use a decline bench. This gives your abs a deeper stretch at the bottom before you curl your knees up toward your chest, rounding your lower back as you go. If you want to make this brutally effective, hang your hips off a bench edge or use an ab wheel style setup that lets your pelvis drop back further before you curl up. More stretch, more growth signal. Section number 5, exercise 2. Upper abs for the upper abs. You want the opposite pattern. Your rib cage folding down toward your hips. That's a weighted crunch with a deep stretch. Ideally done on a decline bench or with your lower back propped up slightly. A rolled towel or small pad under your lower back works fine if you don't have equipment. Beginner version. Lie back. Let your upper back and shoulders sink down for a real stretch through your stomach. Then curl your rib cage down toward your pelvis, not your neck toward your knees. Only your shoulder blades need to come off the ground. Any higher and your hip flexors start taking over again. Progression. Add resistance. A plate held on your chest. A cable, or a resistance band anchored above you. Advanced version. A cable crunch done kneeling, facing away from the machine. Lock your hips in place, they should barely move, and fold your rib cage down purely by rounding your spine. On the way up, let your spine extend back so you get that deep stretch again before the next rep. If your hips are swinging backward toward your heels, that's momentum stealing the work. Slow down and shorten the range until you can feel your abs doing it. Section number 6. How to actually program. Treat these like any other muscle building exercise, because that's exactly what they are. Sets of 6 to 12 reps per exercise. Once you can hit 12 clean reps across all 3 sets, add resistance or move to the next progression. Train ABS 1 to 2 times per week. They recover faster than most muscles, but they still need rest to grow. Control the eccentric, lowering portion. That stretch position is where most of the growth signal comes from, so don't rush it. That's genuinely it. No 500 exercise list, no random circuit you found in a 45-second clip. 2 movements, done with the right range of motion and enough resistance over time, will build more visible AB muscle than almost anything else you could do. But here's the honest part. You can build the most impressive AB muscle in the world and still never see it if it's sitting under a layer of fat. Training solves the size problem. Nutrition solves the visibility problem. And if you want to know exactly how to strip that layer away without losing the muscle you just worked so hard to build, that's what we're covering next. If you found this video helpful, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button. I break down health and wellness in a way that's simple, practical, and actually useful for your everyday life. Join the Human Circuitry TV family so you never miss an episode. New content dropping regularly to help you feel your best. See you in the next one.